Welcome to the newsfeed. Don't miss the latest. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy held a regular meeting of the headquarters of the Supreme Commander on March 6. The press service of the President's office reported, the participants of the meeting considered the situation in Bakhmut in particular detail, strategic grouping of troops quartered to Alexander Zelenskiy regarding further actions in the Bakhmut direction. They spoke in favor of continuing the defense operation and further strengthening our positions in Bakhmut. The statement also says that the participants of the headquarters considered their issue of supplying weapons and equipment and their distribution in operational areas. Meanwhile, if the Russian military manages to capture Bakhmut, does not mean that Moscow will regain the momentum of its year-long military effort. U.S. Secretary of Defense Will Austin said that Bakhmut has more than a symbolic meaning for I am Ukraine than operational. I think it is more symbolic value than strategic and operational value, he said, while Austin refused to predict whether Bakhmut will be captured by Russian troops. The fall of Bakhmut will not necessarily mean that the Russians change the course of this struggle, added Austin. Meanwhile, at the American Institute for the Study of War suggests that if Russian troops manage to take Bakhmut, they may try to resume their offensive on Konstantinovka or Sloviansk but face a shortage of manpower and weapons. Ukrainian forces are likely to make a limited tactical withdrawal in Bakhmut, although it is too early to assess Ukraine's intentions for a complete withdrawal from the city. Ukrainian troops may retreat from their positions on the east bank of the Bakhmutka River. Given the latest geolocal footage of the destruction of the railway bridge across the river in northeastern Bakhmut on March 3, American analysts say they indicate that the Russian military correspondents and bloggers claimed that Russian troops captured the eastern, northern and southern parts and Bakhmut on March 5, but there is still no way to independently confirm these statements. Ukrainian troops are unlikely to retreat from Bakhmut immediately and may continue to gradually withdraw with hostilities in order to deplete Russian forces by continuing the war in urban battles. Russian troops are unlikely to quickly gain significant territorial gains during warfare in urban combat that usually favors the defended and may allow Ukrainian forces to inflict significant casualties on an advancing Russian unit even if Ukrainian troops actively retreat. According to a report from experts, say urban in Bakhmut can further aggravate the already depleted Russian mixed forces, similar to what happened during the withdrawal of the APU from their Severodonetsk-Lysychansk line, which actually ended the Russian offensive operations in the Lugansk and Donetsk regions. In the summer of 2022, yes, the Russian troops do not yet have the manpower and equipment necessary to support large-scale offensive operations to resume the offensive on Kramatorsk and Slaviansk, not to mention their long-term campaign to capture the entire Donetsk region. Significant Russian offensive operations around Glidar or other places in the west of the Donetsk region also cause great doubts. Russia will have to mobilize many more personnel and fundamentally transform its military industry to be able to support such operations. Likely their long-term failure of the Russian military to achieve a decisive victory in the Donetsk region will probably cause more from the ultra-nationalist legal military community in Russia. Analysts say they make assumptions that their Russian offensive on the capture of Bakhmut is likely to culminate, whether the Russian troops capture the city or not, and the Russian military will probably find it difficult to maintain no subsequent offensive operations within a few months. It is likely that Russian forces lack the ability to further significantly strengthen in their Bakhmut area without drawing in forces from another section of the front line. They say high, and add the Russian army does not have enough combat power to support more than one. At the same time, Russian efforts against Bakhmut are not contribute to the achievement of the operational or strategic objectives of the Russian army on the battlefield, and a strong Ukrainian defense in the vicinity undermines any tactical value that the capture of Bakhmut probably has in Russian forces. Ukrainian forces will probably be able to seize the initiative on the battlefield and launch a counter-offensive when Russian efforts around Bakhmut culminate before or after their capture of the city. Analysts report. You also suggest that in subsequent offensive operations, the Russian armed forces in the coming months will rely on irregular military formations, including magnetic Russian troops, in infantry attacks after capturing Bakhmut. Russian forces will have a choice of two directions of advance, but most likely it will be difficult for them to support offensive operations and achieve any significant success. Russian troops may try to advance west along Highway 05.04 to Konstantinovka or northwest along N40 Slavyansk, but powerful Ukrainian fortifications in both directions are likely to inflict significant losses on the advancing Russian forces and force efforts to stop prematurely. Analysts of the Institute for the Study of War suggest in their official reports of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, so far there is no indication of a probable withdrawal from Bakhmut. The Russian army does not stop trying to storm Bakhmut and the surrounding settlements. The armed forces of Ukraine continue to repel enemy attacks in the Bakhmut direction. Notes that the Russians continue to attack the positions of the defenders with weapons of various calibers over the past few days. The enemy has stepped up insane shelling from artillery of various calibers for a month now. The enemy has been trying to fire at Bakhmut. Here every day is like a year and every hour like a day, Zelenskiy noted. According to him, the invaders are pressing and trying to storm along the entire line of demarcation. The northern and southern outskirts of Bakhmut are especially dangerous, but the enemy suffers huge losses and is trying to counterattack and restore lost positions. Zelenskiy emphasized in the report of the Institute for the Study of War. They say that Ukrainian troops are conducting a limited combat withdrawal in East Bakhmut and continue to inflict significant losses on the offensive mixed forces Russia, according to military expert Dmitry Snegirov. In the Ivanovsky area near Bakhmut, Ukrainian units are counterattacking at the same time. The speaker of the Eastern Group of Troops, Sergei said that the arrival of generals in Bakhmut in the Donbass are marker of the fact that the armed forces of Ukraine will fight for every meter of land. Meanwhile, the Russian army continues offensive operations in the Kupiansky, Limansky, Bakhmut, Avdiivsky and mining directions. The mineral headquarters of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reports this in an evening address on March 5. In particular, the command records 23 air and 4 missile strikes as well as 20 shelling from multiple launch rocket systems by Russian troops. During the day, unsuccessful offensive operations of the Russian army in the area of Abologorovka in the Luhansk region in the Bakhmut direction are reported. The enemy continues to attack, does not stop the assaults on Bakhmut and the surrounding settlements, carried out artillery and mortar attacks in areas of settlements Zelensnyanskaya, or Ekhovo-Vaslovka, Bakhmut, Ivanovskaya, Chasov-Yarka, Dyumovka, Shirokai, Borka, Druzhba, Grigorievka, Maersk, New York, Donetsk region. The General Staff also adds that in Zaporozhye and the Kherson region, the Russian army is defending in separate areas, trying to create conditions for an offensive by the top military leadership of the Russian Federation. A conflict is brewing due to significant losses and the lack of real achievements at the front. In February of this year, Putin awarded their commander of the Eastern Military District, Muradov, the rank of Colonel General for report on the successes of the 155th Marine Brigade in the Yagolda direction. Shoigu now requires the general to work out the rank and take the city at any cost. According to their information available, the brigade leadership and military personnel refuse to go on a senseless offensive again, in which they are sent by their untalented leadership to storm well-fortified positions. On Sunday, Ukraine without any support and preparation, the headquarters reports. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, put your finger up and subscribe to the channel.